Decades of silence, cryptic clues unsolved. Tonight, we reopen the Zodiac killer case, applying groundbreaking AI and investigative methods to one of America's most chilling mysteries. Welcome back. I'm Michael Braa. Before we dive into tonight's investigation, be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for more content, behind-the-scenes footage, and updates. In tonight's episode, we apply the Mosaic methodology, paired with our investigative AI, Mia, to revisit the Zodiac killer. We'll sift through decades-old evidence, apply modern analytics, and explore new angles in one of America's most infamous unsolved mysteries. Let's begin. December 20th, 1968. A quiet turnout on Lake Herman Road, just outside of Benicia, California. Inside a parked car are two teenagers, David Faraday, age 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16. At approximately 11:15 p.m., both are shot dead at close range. David is hit once in the head. Betty Lou is shot 5 times in the back as she tries to run. Nothing is taken, no evidence of sexual assault, no fingerprints, no witnesses. To investigators, it appears to be a senseless double homicide, but it won't stay isolated for long. July 4th, 1969. Darlene Ferrin, 22, and Michael Braa, 19, are parked at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo. Just before midnight, a car pulls up behind them. A man steps out. He shines a flashlight in their window, and he opens fire with a 9mm. Darlene is killed. Michael survives, despite being shot 4 times. 40 minutes later, a call comes into Vallejo Police Department. The voice on the other end is calm, flat. He describes the shooting in detail and adds, "I also killed those kids last year." The call is traced to a payphone just a few blocks from the police station. This is the moment authorities realize these are not random acts. This is a pattern. September 27th, 1969. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard are picnicking along the remote shores of Lake Berryessa in Napa County. A man approaches them. He wears a dark hood execution style, marked with a white crosshair on the chest. He ties them up with rope, then stabs them. Brian is stabbed 6 times, Cecilia stabbed 10. He walks away, leaving them for dead. Before leaving the scene, the attacker approaches Brian's car. He draws a large crosshair on the door, Zodiac's symbol. He then writes, September 27th, 6:30, by knife. He's not just leaving a crime scene, he's signing it. At 7:40 p.m., a call comes in to the Napa County Sheriff's Office. The same flat voice. "I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. I did it." The call is traced to a payphone in downtown Napa. The killer is still nearby. Brian survives. Cecilia dies 2 days later. This is now a serial pattern. Attack, call, vanish. October 11th, 1969, San Francisco. Cab driver Paul Stein, 29, picks up a fare near Union Square. At approximately 9:55 p.m., the cab stops at the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets in the upscale neighborhood of Presidio Heights. Moments later, Paul is shot once in the head. 3 teenagers witness the execution. Every investigation begins with what we can see and what we can collect. The Zodiac case gave us plenty. Blood, bullets, shell casing, tire tracks, phone calls, fingerprints, letters, and most importantly, codes. But it also gave us gaps, missed chances, evidence taken too early or far too late. If we want to understand the killer, we have to start here at the scene of the crimes and at the desk where his letters arrived. 4 confirmed attacks, 5 victims dead, 2 survived. Each crime scene gave something back, like Herman Road, .22 caliber shell casings. No robbery, no motive, no fingerprints, no witnesses. Blue Rock Springs, 9mm casings, a survivor who heard the shots. A payphone call, calm, detailed, and deliberate, pointing police to both attacks. Lake Berryessa, 2 victims tied up with rope, stabbed with a long knife. One survives. The killer writes on the victim's car, his symbol, the date, the weapon used. Then he calls it in, Presidio Heights, a cab driver shot in the head. The killer takes his wallet and a piece of his shirt. He walks away before police arrive. Days later, a letter arrives with that bloody shirt inside. At least 20 letters followed, some typed, most handwritten, all taunting. In 1969, the first 3 arrived. Each letter took credit for 2 murders, and one came with a third of a cipher. 408 characters in total, a code. The killer said, "This is part of me. Solve it and you'll know who I am." But that wasn't true. The cipher was cracked by a schoolteacher and his wife. It read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun." And "Man is the most dangerous animal of all. When they die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all that I have killed will become my slaves." Chilling, but not identifying. Then came another. The 340-character cipher Z340 was mailed on November 1969, and for 51 years it remained unbroken. Until 2020, 3 independent codebreakers, using custom software and a little bit of human intuition, finally cracked it. Zodiac mocked the world again. "I am not afraid of the gas chamber. I now have enough slaves to work for me." But again, no name. Beyond the letters and ciphers, we have more. Latent fingerprints on the taxi cab, shell casings from 2 types of handguns, a physical scrap of Paul Stein's shirt mailed with multiple letters, and crucially, DNA. In the early 2000s, the San Francisco Crime Lab extracted a partial DNA profile from the back of a Zodiac stamp. Enough to eliminate a suspect, but not enough to identify one. In 2018, DNA was submitted again for genealogical testing. As of now, no match, but that story isn't over. What else did he leave? Maps, drawings, postcards, phone calls from a nearby payphone with precise directions. In one case, he even included a bomb diagram and claimed he'd blow up a school bus. He played games, kept score, signed his letters with a crosshair symbol, and claimed he'd killed 37 people, though police only confirmed 5. So, what do we really have? We have handwriting, we have ballistics, we have DNA, partial at least. We have recorded threats, we have a voice, and on paper we have, most importantly, his ciphers. These are not just puzzles, they're fingerprints in code. They are how he wanted to be known. In our next segment, we'll evaluate what these clues really mean. We'll look at what we can prove and what still doesn't add up.
Well, sure, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was going through a devastating divorce. That's hard already. Then my ex hid our money and tried to take the kids from me. My attorney suggested I call Atlanta's Private Investigations. That was the turning point. Michael and his team got me the proof I needed to get my children back and secure our future.
I'm Michael from Atlanta's Private Investigations. Let's talk. When you need help, your answers are here. Before we decode the Zodiac's words, we have to evaluate what we know, the facts, the patterns, and the physical evidence left behind. Now, this isn't speculation, this is forensic. It's tactical and geographic. In every case, it gives us a window into who he was and who he wasn't. Let's start at the crime scenes. Lake Herman Road, 22 caliber rounds, tight grouping, no sign of robbery or sexual assault. Blue Rock Springs, 9mm pistol, close range, 1 survivor. Lake Berryessa, knife wounds, pre-cut bindings, deliberate positioning. Presidio Heights, a single execution shot to the head. The killer took the wallet, keys, and a piece of the shirt. He mailed that piece to the press. The weapon changed, the location changed, but the control, that stayed the same. He didn't rush. He didn't panic. He left scenes calm, and then he called it in, twice. He directed law enforcement to his own crimes, giving details only the killer would know. That tells us he wanted to be caught, or more accurately, he wanted to be hunted. But even in 1969, not everything was lost. Police recovered shell casings. They lifted partial fingerprints from the cab in San Francisco. And they documented his writing on a victim's car door. They preserved the envelopes and stamps from his letters. Decades later, they even found DNA. In the early 2000s, San Francisco's crime lab pulled a partial DNA profile from one of the Zodiac stamps. That profile ruled out one of the most famous suspects, Arthur Lee Allen. Then in 2018, that DNA was submitted again, this time for genealogical testing, the same process that identified the Golden State Killer. As of now, there's no confirmed match, but the sample still exists. And if clean, it may still solve this case. Now, let's evaluate where he moved and what that tells us. In 1970, Zodiac mailed a Bay Area road map with crosshair symbol drawn over Mount Diablo. He claimed it would lead to a bomb. Now, no bomb was found, but the map itself became evidence. Modern profiling applied that map in a different way. Using his various attack locations, Benicia, Vallejo, Lake Berryessa, and San Francisco, analysis ran what's known as Rosmo's geographic profiling algorithm. Developed by criminologist Dr. Kim Rosmo, the algorithm uses crime scene locations to calculate likely offender anchor points, places the killer might live, work, or frequent. This is not theory, it's probability modeling. The result in this case, a concentration centered around Vallejo, specifically the area between the first two attacks and the post office used to mail Zodiac's early letters. Vallejo isn't just convenient, it's statistically significant. If Zodiac was moving out from a home base, the model says this is where he started. And that aligns with what we already know. 2 attacks happened near Vallejo. Phone calls were placed from just blocks away. Multiple suspects had ties there, including Arthur Lee Allen. So while geographic profiling can't name him, it can narrow the field. And in an open case like this, that does matter. So then what does the physical evidence say? Well, Zodiac was organized, strategic. He blended forensic caution with psychological warfare. He left traces, but only the ones he wanted. And the clearest trace of all was what he wrote. In the next segment, we evaluate his letters, his ciphers, the messages inside the symbols, and what they still might reveal. If the Zodiac left behind any true fingerprint, it's in the ciphers. Between 1969 and 1974, the killer sent over 20 letters to newspapers, police, and public figures. 4 of those letters contain cryptograms. Together, they form one of the most studied unsolved code sequences in criminal American history. The first cipher, called Z408, was mailed in July of 1969. It arrived in 3 parts, each sent to a different newspaper. When assembled, it totaled 408 characters. The killer promised that solving it would reveal his identity. It didn't, but it did reveal something else. I like killing people because it's so much fun. Man is the most dangerous animal of all. I will not give my name because you will try to slow down or stop my collecting of slaves for my afterlife. This one was solved in a week by a high school teacher and his wife. It used homophonic substitution. It's a classic cipher where symbols stand in for letters. Then came Z340, mailed in November of 1969. This was different, more complex, more layered. It sat unsolved for 51 years. No one, not even the FBI, the NSA, not even the Navy could crack it. Until 2020, that's when 3 independent cryptographers, David Ornchak, Sam Blake, and Harl Van Elk, solved it using custom software and AI-assisted trial decryption. The key? It wasn't just substitution, it was transposition. Reading diagonally, skipping letters, twisting rows. The decoded message reads, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me," and "I'm not afraid of the gas chamber," along with, "because I now have enough slaves to work for me." The tone cold, mocking, almost proud. What it didn't include, once again, was his name. He had never intended to give that away. But it confirmed one thing. This was no accident. This was constructed, and he wanted us to know it. Two other ciphers remain unsolved. Z13, mailed in 1970. This is only 13 symbols long and begins with "my name is," but what follows might be a name or a trick. It's too short to solve by brute force and too short to be verified. It might be nonsense, or it might be the answer we've never been able to reach. Z32, mailed with a map of Mount Diablo, contains a riddle about radians, inches, and a bomb that was never found. This cipher also remains unsolved. Its structure suggests it had an external key, and without the external key, it remains a locked door. So why do the ciphers matter? They're more than puzzles, they're controlled communication. He could have just confessed. Instead, he challenged us to find him. He designed his message to be read, but only after years of frustration when Z340 was solved. He wasn't angry, it was already gone. Modern tools like AZ-Decrypt and Zeek-Decrypto and stylometric analysis continue to test these ciphers for meaning, hidden structure, and pattern recognition. AI has helped decode what humans couldn't, but even now, the question remains, were the last two ciphers real codes, or were they just distractions? Was the name ever really there? In the end, the Zodiac ciphers don't give us his identity, but they do give us his mind. He wrote like someone obsessed with control, of language, of fear, of attention. He wanted us to read every word, and we still are. What comes next is not what he left us, though, but it's what we find when we put all of this together. We're often told Zodiac just got lucky, or was too insane to predict, but the evidence tells a different story. Zodiac avoided capture not because he was brilliant, but because he was disciplined. And discipline is much harder to stop. Consider the preparation like Berryessa. Zodiac wore gloves and brought pre-cut bindings. At Presidio Height, he left no DNA behind. He mounted a flashlight on his gun. These weren't impulsive acts. These were calculated. He studied escape routes. He used payphones close to police stations. He never struck the same type of target twice in a row. After San Francisco, when the police net tightened, he stopped. No more murders, only letters. He found another way to stay in control without taking further risks. His geographic pattern was strategic too. Geographic profiling centers Zodiac's activity around Vallejo, but he deliberately chose Presidio Heights for its dramatic impact, far away from his comfort zone, using distance as camouflage and jurisdictional lines as barriers. He wasn't military, he wasn't law enforcement, but he acted like someone who had carefully studied both. He didn't necessarily outthink the police. He simply stayed 10 minutes ahead. That was enough. But every killer leaves behind two trails, the one we see and the one they're trying to hide. We've been following both, but what if the murders weren't truly random? Two high school students, two young couples, a cab driver, no ransom, no robbery, no sexual assault, no consistent victim type, except one thing: public exposure. Was there something among those victims who was known personally to Zodiac? Early Vallejo police reports suggest there might have been. Darlene Ferrin. There were those anonymous calls, reports of troubling social ties, and sightings of a man who visibly frightened her. These reports remain unconfirmed, yet they've never fully gone away. If Ferrin was Zodiac's true target, then Blue Rock Springs wasn't a random ambush. It was carefully staged, and that would mean Lake Herman Road, Lake Berryessa, and even Presidio Heights were acts of misdirection, smoke and mirrors on a deadly scale. Kill others, create fear, obscure the intent, and bury the one murder that truly mattered. Beneath the layers of chaos, strategically, it worked. Police chased changing patterns, always assuming randomness. But what if that's exactly what Zodiac wanted? This is a tactic we've seen before in foreign intelligence operations. Create chaos, distract attention, and then quietly let the real message pass unseen. So let's ask ourselves clearly, did Zodiac have a victim profile, or did he have a media strategy? Maybe he wasn't targeting individuals. He was targeting our attention. If just one of those crimes was personal, it would explain why he vanished when investigators got too close, why he never openly declared a motive, because the grand narrative itself was his disguise.
Trust. It's hard to get and easy to lose. When the risk of loss is great and people are hurting, who do you trust? How about the people trusted by the biggest names in business, agriculture, and government? Atlanta's Private Investigations, building trust one case at a time.
I'm Michael, founder of Atlanta's Private Investigations. Let's talk. When you need help, your answers are here. Now, let's take a closer look at Darlene Ferrin and why she could have been at the center of Zodiac's deadly game. Darlene Ferrin was 22, a young waitress, married, popular, but with a complex private life. Police reports from Viejo showed Darlene had attracted unsettling attention from several men. Friends described a mysterious man named Lee who appeared at her workplace, even at private parties uninvited. Someone who visibly frightened her. Then there's the startling claim from Darlene herself. According to her babysitter, "I saw him murder someone. He doesn't want anyone to know what I saw." On July 4th, 1969, Darlene was shot 9 times at Blue Rock Springs. More than twice as many as her companion, Michael Braa Show, who survived. Investigators noticed this level of violence toward her seemed excessive, almost personal. Could Darlene have been Zodiac's true intended target, with her murder deliberately staged to mimic a random serial killing? Initially, Vallejo police treated Darlene's murder like a targeted crime, closely examined her personal relationships. But on July 31st, everything changed. Letters sent to the press claimed responsibility for multiple murders, including Darlene's. And suddenly, the investigation shifted entirely. The personal angles faded, early leads like strange late-night phone calls to her family were set aside. Zodiac had successfully redirected police attention. This tactic isn't unheard of. The 2002 DC sniper attacks are a chilling example. Random victims killed to disguise one targeted murder. Could Zodiac have done something similar? If so, his letters, his ciphers, his public taunting were all calculated misdirection. Yet, despite exhaustive investigations, no direct evidence has ever conclusively linked anyone from Darlene's life to Zodiac. No fingerprints, no handwriting, no DNA matches. Officially, authorities remain unconvinced. But consider this. Perhaps Zodiac's ultimate trick wasn't hiding his identity, it was hiding his motive. We may never fully prove this theory, but it forces us to reconsider what we think we know. Because if Darlene Ferrin was the real target, every murder, every clue, every letter was crafted not to show us the truth, but to bury it. More than half a century later, the Zodiac killer case remains officially unsolved. We've examined the evidence, letters, ciphers, ballistics, and DNA. We've considered the calculated discipline behind each attack, and the chilling possibility that one murder, Darlene Ferrin's, was the real motive hidden beneath layers of chaos. We may never know what Zodiac's name is or definitively prove his intent, but every cipher cracked, every letter analyzed, every piece of evidence revisited brings us closer, not just to understanding Zodiac, but to understanding ourselves. Because Zodiac's true legacy isn't just fear or mystery, it's our relentless search for answers. And as long as questions remain, the investigation continues. Got a theory about the case, question you've been dying to ask, or maybe you just want to say hi? Shoot me an email at themichaelbraashow@gmail.com or hit me up on social media. You never know, your message might end up on the show.
Well, sure, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was going through a devastating divorce. That's hard already. Then my ex hid our money and tried to take the kids from me. My attorney suggested I call Atlanta's Private Investigations. That was the turning point. Michael and his team got me the proof I needed to get my children back and secure our future.
I'm Michael from Atlanta's Private Investigations. Let's talk. When you need help, your answers are here.
Trust. It's hard to get and easy to lose. When the risk of loss is great and people are hurting, who do you trust? How about the people trusted by the biggest names in business, agriculture, and government? Atlanta's Private Investigations, building trust one case at a time.
I'm Michael, founder of Atlanta's Private Investigations. Let's talk. When you need help, your answers are here.